morning. Welcome to the Las Vegas Conversation on Board Diversity. My name is Connie Harper, and I'm the chair of this event. So thank you for arranging your schedule to be with us today, and I'm sure you'll find our time together useful. Before I do anything else, I want to thank our Las Vegas sponsor, Deloitte. I'm sure that most of you don't know the extent to which Deloitte is a global leader in research and advocacy for the global gender diversity in the boardroom. The Deloitte Global Center for Corporate Governance regularly brings together the knowledge and experience of Deloitte member firms around the world in the critical area of corporate governance. Its mission is to promote dialogue among Deloitte practitioners, corporations, boards of directors, investors, and governments. Since 2009, the Global Center has launched over 65 centers of corporate governance in Asia, Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and the Americas. They recently published their astounding data-based report, Women in the Boardroom, a Global Perspective, 6th edition, that scrutinizes corporate practices regarding gender diversity in industries around the globe. So again, we thank Deloitte for its sponsorship. So our program today will be fast moving. First, we'll have a slideshow reporting on where we are today and where we're going from here, presented by 2020 Women on Board's co-founder, Mally Gerald. Then we will hear from our 4 VIP panelists who will share their wisdom and experience gleaned in the boardrooms around corporate America. Please write down your questions because you will have an opportunity to ask them when we go into our breakout rooms. We will conclude our program at 11, which is 30 minutes more than what we had originally said. So if you have to leave at 10:30, like we originally said, feel free to just leave, and we'll be able to stay in our rooms until 11. So with no further ado, let me tell you a little about our first speaker, Mally Gerald. From 2010 to 2017, Mally served as president of 2020 Women on Boards, which you may not know is a national campaign to increase the number of women on for-profit corporate boards of directors to 20% or more by the year 2020. Before launching 2020 Women on Boards, Mally had a long career in marketing, communications, and public relations. She was principal of her own communications firm, a boutique PR firm founded in 1985, and specialized in business-to-business, nonprofit, and hospitality sectors, with a special emphasis on women's leadership. So Mally, where have we been and where are we going?
Thank you, Connie. I'm so glad to be back with you this year. It's great to be in Las Vegas. I wish I were there in person. Okay, let's get this show going. We'll take the next one. Here we go. Percentage of women on board. So the percentage of women on boards in the Russell 3000 has steadily increased in the last 4 years, going from 16% nationally to 22.6% on Russell 3000 boards in 2020. At the same time, the percentage of women in Russell 3000 companies headquartered in Nevada has increased from 10.9% to 21.2% in the same 4 years, 2017 through 2020. So we are seeing really good growth here, a little bit behind the national, but way on the way up. That's good news. Okay, so among the 25 states in the United States that have more than 20 companies on the Russell 3000, all but two, Florida and Utah, exceeded the 20% goal for women on their boards this year. The states that have achieved more than 20% for the first time are Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and Texas. So Nevada companies, there are 26 companies on the Russell 3000 headquartered in Nevada, and 14 are W companies at 20% or greater on their boards, including, I'm pleased to note, Boyd Gaming Corporation, and Christine Spadafore will be here today and is on their board of directors, and she can tell you more about that. So that's a total of 44 women on boards on Russell's 3000 companies headquartered in Nevada. Those are great gains, and we want to see it move in the same direction. So what does that mean? How many women? Imagine all Nevada companies on the Russell 3000 at 20% or greater. What is needed to get there is a modest 14 to 18 women, depending on whether they add a seat or retire a man. We can do this, Nevada. We can find those women. All right, so what we now know after 10 years is 20% might have been the goal then, but it is not good enough now. So if 20% is not good enough, well, what is? So we made a bold decision this year to set a new goal, parity. And what we are now calling parity is something called gender balance. So what does it look like nationally and in Nevada? Well, nationally, out of 2,982 companies, 163 have gender balanced boards. In Nevada, out of the 26 companies, 2 are gender balanced. So what do we know? We got a lot of work to do. So we have a new goal, we need a new vision, and that is that all public company boards will be gender balanced, with women holding half of corporate board seats. And let that be a model to all boards, public company boards, private company boards, nonprofit boards, trade and government agencies, and commissions. To support this new vision, as of January 1st, our new name is going to be 50/50 Women on Boards. So our new campaign will continue. Oops, let's go back. Let's go on. Yeah, thank you. Our new campaign will continue to educate, collaborate, and advocate for change, just like we have done always. I'll take the next slide. Thank you. And I'm pleased to report that our very popular Get on Boards workshop will resume in February 2021, all virtual, powered by Zoom. Look for more information on our website. We're also very thrilled to announce a new program, Path to the Boardroom, developed for women in mid-career with an ambition to serve on boards within the next 5 to 10 years. Look for more information on that. That will begin sometime in Q1. So you can find out much more about us and about our research and campaign and the programs on our website, 2020wob.com, and join us on the conversation on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And thank you, Connie, for having me. And I'm going to hop off now and enjoy the panel.
Thank you, Mally. I am totally inspired by the idea of 50/50 women on boards. Woo, woo, woo. So now let me introduce the first member of our VIP panel, Jim Hunt. Jim has served as a corporate director for over 20 years including he was chairman of the board at Caesars Entertainment and has been a member of several corporate boards that operate the expansive Walt Disney Company enterprises. So Jim, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Connie. Glad to be here.
So what we want to know, we want insider information from you. What experience do boards really value today from new board members?
Well, Connie, there's a host of experiences that we value today in boards. You hear it from all avenues of financial considerations. As we move more into the consideration by boards of human capital management, I expect to see many more board members coming to us with HR and human capital management backgrounds. Obviously, we talk on a daily basis about technology and cybersecurity. So there is a great wealth of considerations that you give. But I think more important than any of them, you really want the people that are experienced in their executive roles, that are interested in board service. And I think the word service is a really key consideration in board work, and that really are interested in the particular company that they might be considered for.
Well, great. So you can't imagine, Jim, how valuable to us your opinions and observations are. And thank you again. Thank you again for being with us.
Happy to be.
So next on our panel is Jean Jackson. Jean has also had an extensive career as a member of corporate boards of directors of for-profit companies. She currently serves on the boards of McDonald's, Inc., Kraft Heinz, Inc., and Delta Airlines. She has also served on the boards of Nike, Nordstrom, Harrah's, Williams-Sonoma, Motorola Mobility Holdings, CRS Inc., West Marine Inc., and the United States Naval Exchange. So Jean, thank you for joining us this morning. Can you tell us what was your pathway to your first corporate board position? Was it via the C-suite? And how did you know the persons who recommended you? Based on what you know today about getting on corporate boards, what advice would you give, or what advice do you wish you were given back then that would have helped you?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, Connie. Thanks for including me. And I love this little chat thing down here. You watch the comments coming up. They're wonderful. Very complimentary. I appreciate it. You know, my first board my first public company board was actually West Marine. And I was based in San Francisco, nowhere near the C-suite. You know, I was running a division. The West Marine Company wanted an experienced marketing executive to help round out their board. And I benefited from the early wave of a desire for board diversity. So they were looking for a woman specifically, and they were looking for a woman with some deep marketing experience. And I happened to live in the Bay Area, which wasn't too far away from them. So I fit their spec pretty closely and ended up joining that board, and it was a great experience. The thing that I think helped the most over time is network. Because as I knew people on one board, they would recruit me to another board, or they would be asked about a recommendation for that board. And literally from that very first board, I almost never went through a recruiter again. There was always a contact who knew me and recommended me for a spot on a board.
Wow. Thank you, Jean. Moving along to our next panelist, Phil Satra. He joined the board of directors at Wynn Las Vegas as its vice chairman in August of 2018. He is currently a member of that board's nominating, corporate governance, and compliance committees. He previously served on the boards at Nordstrom, International Game Technology, Nevada Energy, and Rite Aid. So Phil, thank you for joining us this morning. What is the number one thing you have witnessed that you recommend women don't do in their pursuit of a corporate board seat? And what would you tell women never to say in their board interview?
Wow, you asked me the toughest question, Connie. It's a pleasure to be here. I don't think there's any hard and fast rule on any of those things. I think when you're going to be recruited to a board, you need to be yourself, and you need to talk about what you think you bring to that particular board, whether it's your business experience or your interest in the industry. The one thing that I think is very important to most boards that are recruiting somebody, and in particular CEOs, and it was the case when I was the CEO and recruiting board members to Harrah's Entertainment, Inc. I wanted to make sure that those board members, potential board members, really had an interest in the industry. So the gaming industry is a little different than a lot of others. A lot of people don't particularly approve of the gaming industry. And I think it isn't a very appealing to members of this industry to have somebody who joins the boardroom and then says, well, why do we have slot machines? And why do we have blackjack games? And are you being fair to the customer? That's a good question, but you need to have an interest in the industry. You need to embrace what the company's doing, whether it's Nordstrom and apparel, or whether it's Wynn Resorts and a integrated resort experience. So I think if you're going to pursue boards, pick a company and an industry that really interests you.
Wow. Thank you, Phil. I never would have thought of that. So thank you for your advice. Now, our last panelist is Christine Spadafor. Christine is a Harvard Law School grad who has served on the board of directors for Boyd Gaming Corporation, one of our W companies, for 11 years, and where she currently chairs their governance and nominating committees. She previously served on their audit and compensation committees. The fact that she is currently chairing their governance and nominating committees is worth noting because so few women have the opportunity to be a chair of a committee on a corporate board of directors. So kudos to Christine. So Christine, thank you for joining us. Here is your question. How do we get positioned for a board, and how do we prepare for the board interview?
Thank you, Connie. It's a delight to be here. Let me take that in two parts. In terms of getting positioned, just to manage expectations, some women that I coach for getting on boards really treat it as a part-time job, because board seats are relatively scarce and you really need to figure out how you can distinguish yourself from the other competitors, because it is a highly competitive process. So it requires focus and it requires time. So please be patient and persevere, because typically getting on a board takes some period of time to go through the process. Also, be confident in your personal brand. You don't know who's watching you. And you may be speaking, as I had the experience at a public event, and someone recommends you for a board, someone you don't even know. So realize that someone's always watching. If you have an opportunity to get exposure to a board through your current position, that is great experience, so you can at least be in the room to see how board dynamics work, board processes work, and board structure works, so that when you are selected for a board, you'll have some context for board operations. And then finally, be thinking about having your elevator speech down. Why should they pick you? So that's around getting positioned. Now, in terms of preparing for the board interview, Remember, this is not an interview for a management position. When I do mock interviews with women who are interested in applying for boards, many times when I ask questions, I'll get a management answer. Board service is broader. Board service is oversight. It's not a management role. When you go to the interview, be the best prepared person. Get every single publicly available document you can get your hands on and read it. I was told after being selected for a board that one reason I was selected was because I was the most prepared. I had an interest in the company, as Phil was talking about, and it showed, and they respected that. And remember, this is a two-way street. Does this company have the same values that you have? And it's really important to be true to yourself on this. That may mean that when you are approached for a particular board, it may not be a match for you. So really look inside and see if the values are the same. Do a mock interview with a friend who's on a board if you're able to, and really be clear about the value you will add to the company. The board role is evolving. As Jim mentioned, HR is getting more prominence, as is appropriate, I think always, but certainly in this time. Be thinking about how you will add company, not only to the board, but to the company as well. And when you go in for that interview, head up and shoulders back. Those first impressions really matter. Go in with a confident attitude, and I will see you in the boardroom.
Wow. Thank you so much for that, Christine.
Pleasure.
I want to point out that what you just shared is information that I had never heard before, except for the piece about the elevator speech. So here's a plug for our Get On Board workshops. If you're in the audience, if you're an attendee and you don't have an elevator speech, that may be a reason for you to sign up for our Get On Board workshops, because one of the things that happens there is that you actually get to develop and practice your elevator speech. So now's the time for us to go to our breakout rooms. The process that our production team has devised to accommodate the thousands of people who are participating in these events around the world requires you to leave this Zoom room by clicking on the red button at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and then go to the email that you received earlier this week. The subject line was Las Vegas Conversation, your Zoom links to access the event. And then click on the Zoom link for your breakout room. If you need help, send an email to events@2020 Women on Boards. So thank you all for participating, and I hope you join us next year.